Okay, looks like we have everyone. Looks like everyone can see us and hear us, so let's get ahead with our webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing StarWind ProActive Support as a remedy to IT infrastructure support pains, but that will be not the only topic. Additionally, we'll be telling you how you can create an analog of many vendors' support systems in your own environment without any additional costs as well. So we will show you how to achieve the highest uptime possible for each of your individual environments with the smallest personal time contributed, using just basic monitoring and alerting tools. But what is crucial is that we will tell you how to have peace of mind and how you can afford to use your time on more interesting things than sitting at your monitor 24/7. By the way, feel free to ask any questions you have during the presentation and we will answer them during the questions and answer session. So your host today are me, Andrew Tuzef, I'm a project manager at StarWind, and Alexei Horolets, who's one of our engineers. Without further ado, Alexei, please take over.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Many companies have its own infrastructure, for example, servers that are running production in them. There just can be standalone servers or clusters with the virtual machines, giving users the access to the applications. And of course, every single environment, even the smallest one, needs to be supported. So servers are not immortal, and every piece of hardware or software sometimes breaks apart. Same I can say about the resources available for users. So they have an ability to run out. And when that happens, without any support from the administrator, users just can access their files, and that is leading for to production stop, basically. So we need the administrator that will look for the environment. And now it comes another question. So how system administrator will detect if something happened or supposed to happen in the nearest future? So using a standard amount of environment functionality, such as a couple of graphs, is not the best idea because it doesn't give the administrator a real picture of how the system is working. And also that will force the administrator to be on his working place 20 hours, 7 days per week. And that is a particular case to implement some kind of monitoring software in order to summarize the information about the whole system, give the real overview of the environment, and reveal any vulnerabilities it has. So there are many products on the market that can provide the customer with the monitoring functionality. Will it be the open source or just some closed vendors? And so there are plenty of good solutions that will help you or your administrator to save the time and look after the environment, allowing to turn this time into the support for users. So some of the products like the Zabbix, Cacti, Nagios are well-known open source monitoring applications that will just give you the wide view of your IT infrastructure. So big advantage in this case is that open source means that you can customize the software in order to make it looking like you want it to be. And definitely there are a ton of available extensions from a community that are being updated continuously. So for example, the Zabbix. So it's a very good product. It's very flexible. Monitoring is extendable with various scripting methods like the external checks, user parameters. So you can use about anything for alert notification as long as you can script it. Same with Nagios. So free to use and edit, has an open configuration which is easy to add the custom scripts to extend the services. It has varieties of alert tools and many plugins which are free to download and develop. But there is a disadvantage coming next. However, administrator still needs to check the infrastructure by himself, what is obviously takes time. Of course, there is an option to significantly modify the software and set the alerts and notifications about the environment, thus decreasing the time spent on the monitoring. But there are a lot of things to be configured in order to achieve this. So there are like the numerous values that must be monitored, such as the CPU and RAM usage, number of IOPS on the underlying storage, network throughput, and the overall health of the infrastructure. Besides, if you use open source software, in order to make the solution cheaper, you can be just limited by the certain functionality, and not 100% sure that it will work without any issues. In this case, we're going to the StarWind ProActive Support, I guess, and Andrew.
Yes, so basically the things that Alex mentioned would be pretty much enough to cover the support of some vendors. Now, that being said, it is very important to understand that the three key values that were given are monitoring, alerting, and doing the actual support. So what this means is that you trade off your time for money. For example, when a vendor offers similar functionality, this means that you can save some time by configuring everything yourself, by setting up the monitoring tools, selecting certain values at which you'll be getting alerts, setting them up, and resolving the issues. Or you can pay some money and get support. But StarWind typically does things a little differently, and to the better or to the worst, I'll let you decide. So a typical scenario would look in the next way. So a customer has, let's say, StarWind ProActive Support. Then an issue occurs, or, and this is already a main difference, it doesn't even occur, because we have predictive analytics that would identify potential failure patterns, and before the issue even happens, StarWind Health Monitoring Service provides information to our support team that something is about to happen. So our team of support already starts looking for a potential solution. If it is required, our team will involve third-party vendors because obviously issues can be localized to the hardware, to the hypervisor, etc. And it's very important to understand which component is about to fail and effectively route the efforts of different support teams. Now, after that, we will reach out to you for remote access, but unlike most other vendors, we will not be trying to troubleshoot on a remote session, which will take lots of time, and if God forbid your environment is even going down or whatever, we will not be wasting valuable seconds of time, and each one of those seconds will be costing you quite a bit of money. Now, after we reach out for remote access, we resolve the issue, and then we just report to you saying that the issue has been resolved, and finally, we managed to find a solution. This can happen very shortly after the issue happened, or even before it actually happens. Depends on the specific case and scenario, since our proactive support collects various metrics and provides predictive analytics as well, but obviously it's individual to each environment. Now, to continue, what StarWind does is we have a certain belief. The main idea around StarWind is having an individual approach to each customer, and we believe that the IT industry as a whole is extremely intertwined, and basically each IT specialist in the industry increases the overall value and the overall knowledge in the industry. And that's why we believe that your time is a lot more valuable than, let's say, monitoring the environment of your customers and resolving their issues when they come to you and say, hey, I have a problem with Microsoft Word, or I can't draw my favorite pictures in Microsoft Paint. We think that you need to have centralized management and support, which will allow you to devote your time to projects that will really drive your company forward, integrating new ERP systems, integrating advanced things in your CRM systems, etc. This means that effectively you're becoming a better specialist, you're increasing your value on the market, and you can join the company of your dreams and continue working there, making the whole industry better as a whole. Perhaps even some of you would like to join StarWind, who knows? So what our company does, it saves you three things. One is time, because literally nothing is required from you to have our proactive support. Typically, even for the best support systems, you still not need to notify them that something happened. And that means that while the vendor's support is dependent on you informing them of the issue, you are dependent on your end users reaching out to you and telling you that something happened. And that's always an unpleasant experience, especially if by chance that user might be your boss. So StarWind does everything by ourselves. We automatically create tickets without even you knowing. We come to you for a solution. Actually, there's one thing you need to do is giving us remote access, but I think that's under 1 minute of time, which should be not too much of a bother. The second thing is we save you money, because time is money. That's one of the things. Obviously, you're going to be spending money on different monitoring systems if you were to get commercial licenses, etc. But most importantly, your time costs a lot of money. And while you could be spending time configuring the environment, monitoring it, resolving the issues, you could spend a sum that is considerably less than the total of your time spent and get one of the best supports in the industry. And then the third thing is effort. This is actually coming out of the previous two, because time and money equals effort, something that you need to spend your days thinking about and doing. I'm pretty sure that most of you, after our work days, would like not to get messages from their boss, hey, everything is down, please come over to the office. You want to enjoy a cold beer, you want to spend time with your family, friends, loved ones, etc., or perhaps even in self-education. And StarWind gives you exactly that possibility. So that being said, it's time now for your questions. And if you have any questions regarding the various tools that can be used for monitoring, or regarding StarWind's proactive support, or how you can use it in your environment, we'd be most happy to answer. So we're going to give you several minutes to accumulate a certain amount of questions, and then we're going to start answering them.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions already, and the first one is Mike Drummond asks, so in order to understand this clearly, your engineers or the software is monitoring the infrastructure every second? Yeah, sure. So that's how it works. You don't need to monitor your own infrastructure at all, and our engineers will do all the job for you. So they are just like monitoring your system, and if something will happen with the with your infrastructure, or any symptoms that will like lead to the to some kind of issues in the future, we can simply just detect it and contact you with this information and notify you that basically something is happening with your system.
Okay, I can see two more questions. So actually, both of them I really like. One question is, can the monitoring tools we mentioned in the first part of the webinar be used in a production environment. Of course, even though they're open source, and part of the responsibility is on yourself and on the community for supporting it, which is fine, to be honest, because those solutions are reasonably reliable. I personally know quite a few people in the industry that use, for example, Nagios as a monitoring tool, and to quite great effect. Obviously, it is not a fully fledged monitoring and support system, as in something that, for example, we do, but it's still a good enough solution, and I would say several vendors would be pretty envious of your own support if you were to set it up in that way. Okay, another question, one I really like, security questions. They're always the best ones. Does StarWind see, what does StarWind see? Okay, so with the proactive support, this means that we monitor only the vital stats of the environment. So those can be various hardware metrics, metrics from the hypervisor, etc. We do not see any of your personal data, and we have no means of collecting them. And initially, when we were designing the system, that was part of the intent. We understand that many of our customers have very sensitive environments. Those can be banks, government agencies, etc. And their data is one of their biggest assets.
Okay, so another question is Sam Emery asks, what is the cost of your services? So I guess this information you can ask from our sales team, and all you need just to do is to contact the sales representative and gather all the information about costings and other stuff. So
actually, if there are two options, so one of the options is either writing to sales@starwind.com, or if you do not want to be targeted by pesky sales representatives, you can just reach out to me and Alex directly. We will basically, my email is andrei.tuzov@starwind.com, and you can reach out to us and we will provide you with the pricing without a lot of back and forth between our sales team and you. Perfect. Another question I see, you mentioned that you're monitoring hardware metrics. Is your proactive support available only for software or for hardware as well? Both. For the software, it comes as an additional support option, but actually for our hyperconverged infrastructures, since we believe that HCIs in general are largely dependent on support because it's a all-in-one system that has to be perfect, we include proactive support into the price of the hyperconverged appliance, which is actually, as far as I'm aware, we're the only company in the industry doing that, because the other vendors that provide proactive support in their portfolios, they do not target the small and medium business segment. They come at pretty high enterprise price tags, although their solutions are actually really good as well.
Okay, so there are plenty of questions more, and Remy Trombetta asks, do you need specific language for this support? I guess you're talking about the just language of our support guys. In this case, I guess English is the most common language in the world. It's multicultural, and yeah, so I guess that will be the case for that one. And another question from Ryan Romain is, does this require the purchase of an extra support license? Andrew, could you please tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, as I already mentioned, with our proactive support, you can get it as an upgrade for the software, and it already comes bundled into the hardware upgrades. So basically, whenever you get one of StarWind's hyperconverged systems, it already comes in the bundle. When we're talking about the software option, then it comes as an additional upgrade. Obviously, the pricing, as we mentioned, can be inquired from our sales team.
Okay, and one more question I can see. Sama Mary asks, do you only alert us for the problem, or do you solve the problem too? So we first alert you about the problem and about the upcoming problem, and we are just contacting you, and together we will just solve this problem. So if for example, if it's the hardware problem, for example, like a couple of disks are malfunctioning. In this case, we just notify you about that, and after that, we will just contact the hardware vendor and ask for the drives replacement.
Okay, perfect. At that, I think that's all questions for now. Obviously, we're not stopping you with questions, God forbid. If you have any more questions, just feel free to reach out to the various emails that we have within StarWind, info@starwind.com, sales@starwind.com for sales questions, or as I mentioned, my personal email, for example. And we would be happy to answer any questions you have related to StarWind, or perhaps even not related to StarWind. We're always glad to discuss IT developments and other interesting topics. So that being said, gentlemen and ladies, perhaps, I thank you for your time. I thank Alex for his insight on the various monitoring metrics, and we wish you all the best of luck, a great weekend, and until further meetings on our webinars. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, as well, and have a nice weekend.